Welcome to the Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Circle, the simple and AI-powered rewards and recognition platform for employee engagement.
For leaders, trust is never a choice, and today's leaders are more aware of the importance of maintaining it. But what happens when trust is broken? Can we gain it back? Stay tuned, as today, Philippa Mathewson shares her thoughts on why it's critical to design, measure, and monitor trust throughout an organization's operations. Philippa Mathewson is an experienced and accomplished high-performing senior leader with 40 years of experience. She has worked in people and culture development and changes across various sectors, including financial, travel, and professional services. She has held senior leadership roles in customer service, sales, global transitions, talent, and employee engagement. Welcome to the show, Philippa.
Thank you so much, Susmita. It's lovely to be here.
Great to have you on our show today, Philippa. And it would be great if you can brief us about your background and your path to leadership and what you're up to now.
Absolutely, I would love to. Well, Susmita, I actually started work over 40 years ago, back in 1982, I think it was. And I'm very lucky to have had, three careers in my lifetime. I started off work as an administration assistant. I kind of left school not knowing what to do. I'm originally from the UK, and I left school not really knowing what I wanted to do. And I got a little job as an admin assistant in a travel agency in the UK. And I was literally just making tea, coffee, a little bit of filing, some typing, the kind of thing to do.
Right.
But it was there where I absolutely fell madly in love with the travel industry. And I was very fortunate that over a period of 24 years that I spent in travel, I worked my way up from that admin assistant to selling holidays in retail, to becoming a manager. I did some training, and then I became an area manager and was running 21 different shops. And then around about the time of the .com, I realized that contact centers or call centers were going to be very big. So I then moved from retail into the contact centers, and towards the end of my time in travel, I was running 1,000-seat contact centres in different places within the UK for big brands like Expedia, Thomas Cook, and other such companies. But unfortunately, the 9/11 hit the travel industry, and the travel industry went through a terrible time, as I'm sure you won't remember, but you will understand. And my role, because I was very senior in leadership roles at that time. My role was made redundant 3 times in 3 years. So I decided the time was to get out of the travel industry. And that's when I kind of started my second career. And that's when I joined the banking industry. So the transferable skill that I had was running contact centers. So I ran a large contact center for a big UK bank up in the northeast of England, and did that for a couple of years. And that's where I actually heard about this little secondment that the bank was doing on transferring some roles from the UK to India. And so I came over to India on a 3-month secondment, landed up in Mumbai in August of 2006, and helped transition some roles from the UK to India. And that 3-month secondment ended up being 18 months, Susmita. You know how secondments work, they never run to plan. And during that time, I came up to Delhi and helped organisation I was working for open up a captive contact centre in Delhi, in Noida as it was then.
Okay.
And was spent a long time with that organisation in various different roles. Some of it was operational, so it was sales or customer service. Some of it was project management. I spent a long time in learning and development, heading up learning and development for them. And I had a short stint in South Africa as well. But I finished up working for that organisation in what I call my dream role, which was heading up employee engagement for the bank. for about 15,000 employees across India.
Wow.
So that was a very long journey. But around about just over 5 years ago, I had some tragic events happen in my life. I lost 3 very important people in my life very quickly and very suddenly. And it made me kind of wake up. I'd always wanted to run my own business, but never had the guts to do it. Being a corporate kid all my life, I never really had the guts to take that stepping stone. But realizing that life was very precious and very short, it gave me that confidence to set up my own business. So now I'm in partnership with my business partner, and I particularly focus on the areas of employee engagement and leadership. And I work with organizations, some small, some large, working with organizations, helping them with their employee engagement strategies and plans, implementation, and all the great things that go along with the exciting topic of employee engagement. So that's just in a nutshell a little bit about me, Susmita.
Yeah, so I'm sure that you are enjoying your current role that you are having.
Oh, I absolutely love it, Susmita. I have, I get such joy out of doing what I do and working with the people that I work. I consider myself one of the luckiest women on earth.
Yeah, setting up something for oneself, it's a dream for a lot of people. And then, as you said, you have some, down breaks in your life. Then I remember a quote here that, you don't know how strong you are until being strong is the only option you have left with.
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely resonate with that. Yeah. You don't know how strong you are. And I've come out the other side, stronger and enjoying life more than I ever have done. And I'm should be coming to the end of my career now. I turn 60 next year, but I'm still as full of life as I ever was, and it gives you that renewed rejuvenation.
For most of the people, after 60s the career graph goes down, but for you from 1992 to it's 2022, the career graph is still moving up. So congratulations for that, and I wish you all the best for your future, Philippa.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so Philippa, in all this journey of work, how would you like to, describe your own leadership style? How do you see yourself as a leader with so many years of, experience in specializing in engagement, company culture, leadership, across multiple business sectors?
That's $1 million question, Susmita. And I always remember that question from interviews and things like that. But I think over the years, I've really learned that people perform at their peak when they're truly connected to the organization and the people that they're actually working with. And I think Simon Sinek actually sums this up brilliantly when he says, when people are financially invested, they want a return. When people are emotionally connected, they want to contribute. And so to me, leadership is all about heart count. It's not about head count. And to me, that means leading from the front, walking by their side, and also leading from behind as well. Now, what I mean by that is, you have to walk the talk. You have to lead from the front. You have to do what you say you're going to do. You have to live and breathe the organization as you want your people to actually live and breathe it as well. So leading from the front is very important. I think the crux of the matter here is walking by their side on their journey. Nobody comes into work thinking, do you know what? I'm going to do my worst today. I'm going to do my worst performance today. People naturally, human beings, we want to do our best all of the time. And I think when you walk by their side and walk the journey with them and show that you're a human being and not this lofty leader set on a pedestal, you really do get the best out of people. And then what I mean by leading from behind is, there's a time to let your people fly. There's a time to actually let your people get on and do it not necessarily your way, but their way, add value themselves and actually, be there for them, they're like their little safe safety net should they need you. But, it's really important as a leader that we let our people fly and spread their wings as well.
Brilliant answer, Philippa. So I'm here curious to know that what's the first thing that you do when you partner with a business owner or a leadership team?
Interesting. I'm going to go back a little step before that, if I may, Susmita, because even before I start to partner with a business owner or a leadership team, I really need to ensure that both that leadership team or those business owners align with my own values. And my own values are adventure, joy, growth and collaboration. And that's really important to me in order for me to feel connected to the people that I work with. Now, when I talk about adventure, what I'm talking about here is about taking chances, risks even, being willing to venture into the unknown and to be able to step into a really exciting journey. At the end of the day, life is an adventure. And, we only get the most out of it when we put our hearts and souls into it and prepared to take chances and prepared to take risks. My second value about joy is all about being really, really passionate about what we're doing, being in it for the journey, not just the destination, not just the end result. I think that people feel most valued when they work with a very strong intrinsic motivation and a really deep sense of meaning. They should love what they do and do what they love. And that's what brings joy. The growth part is really, and as cliche as this may sound, it's about unlocking the true potential, for the clients that I actually work with. It's not just for them as an individual, but for their organization, but also for me. Life is one big growth opportunity, one big learning opportunity. So, when we unlock that growth, we really, truly inspire to be the best that we can be. And my final value is all about collaboration. It's about engaging fearlessly and wholeheartedly and really with that dynamic energy whilst we build a true partnership. It should all be like, I think about the Three Musketeers, all for one and one for all.
Right.
So even before I start working with a client, I do a lot of research to ensure that it's not necessarily the company values. Their company values have to match mine, but the very essence of them are open to adventure, joy, growth and collaboration. And I think the next thing that I do, which I think is vital when we work in the area of employee engagement, because employee engagement can be seen as very intangible and very blue sky. So it's really important to build trust with the people that I'm working with. And I do this by, some of the ways that I do this is by really listening to what they have to say. What challenges are they facing? What are the outcomes that they actually want to achieve? So many when you're working, consultants or companies, when they work with clients, they're driven to their own agenda. And we really have to understand what is the outcome they want. And asking lots and lots of questions to get to the heart of the challenge. So I like to describe it as unpeeling the onion. You know how the onion has multiple layers. We have to unpeel it. And the only way we're going to get to that is by asking questions and listening to the answers. Of course, it's important to be honest and transparent. I think that goes without saying when you're building trust. But equally, it's important to show that you're vulnerable. I've found that it's okay to admit when you don't know something. The trick of it, of course, is to go ahead and find out and then get back to them. We're all human after all. We all have got that vulnerable side. And if you show your own vulnerability, then, the client is going to be vulnerable with you too. But I think above all that, and something that encompasses it all, is about showing how much you care about them and their organization.
Right.
Some of the things that I like to do is I like to get involved in focus groups. I like to listen in on, the senior leadership meetings. I like to see the company results and what they're achieving and how they're doing it. Because when I work for the organization, it should never be a them and me. It should be we. I'm as much part of that organization as they are. And that helps build trust as well. So in summary there, prior to working with a business owner or a leadership team, to me, it's important for me to ensure that values are aligned so that we're coming from the same place. And then secondly, my next step, although there's many more to follow, of course, is about building trust and building that trust that, that because employee engagement, as I say, is so intangible, it can be a difficult topic to talk about, that you build trust with your potential client.
And you have been known and appreciated for your, extensive knowledge and experience, your personality and commitment to making a real difference to the people you work with. And as you have mentioned, that employee engagement has been your area of expertise throughout your extensive experience. So it would be great, Philippa, if you could share some of the most effective employee engagement initiatives that you have taken up in your career and you have seen great results with.
So Smitha, you're after my tips, right? My tricks that I get up to. That's absolutely okay. I'm more than willing to share. There's a few things that I would like to share here, some of them big and some of them small. The first thing I think that is so important is to get leadership buy-in. And by that, I mean, whether it be C-suite, if it's a large organization, or, if I'm working with a business owner and it's a much smaller organization, the leadership team needs absolute buy-in from them. Without that, employee engagement, any employee engagement initiative that you try to implement will never even get off the starting blocks. And I found that the best way to do this is to ensure that the employee engagement strategy and plan connects clearly to the business objectives and also measure it. So a lot of people say that employee engagement can't be measured, but I go back to the old adage, what gets measured gets done. And it's really important that any leadership team, no matter how big or small, actually buys into employee engagement and sees how it connects. I see it as, connecting the dots for them. If we do this, then the outputs we can expect are this. So leadership buy-in is critical. And unfortunately, many leaders say that they buy into it, but it becomes a tick box exercise. So leadership buy-in is critical to anything that we do in the employee engagement space. Another piece that I would share with you is about vision and values. Now, many organizations come up with their vision and come up with their values. Many pay huge consulting conglomerates to actually help them actually put their vision and values together, which is wonderful. But once we've got our vision and values, what do we do with them? Vision and values have to be part of the DNA of the organization. And our colleagues on the floor, on the front line, need to understand how what they are doing on a daily basis links into the vision, values, and the goals of the organization so that they can understand the contribution that they make. So vision, and one of the things that I do is I hold vision and value workshops, for example, to help our colleagues actually link how what they do on a daily basis links into the values. Because at the end of the day, many organizations have goals, KRAs, objectives, KPIs, whatever you want to call them, which is the what we achieve. Very few organizations focus on the how, which are the behaviors, which are, in fact, the values of the organization. So something simple as actually including values as part of the performance development process is a very useful thing to do so that our colleagues can actually understand not just what they've achieved, the goal or KRA, but also how they've achieved it. And the how is as important as the what. You can, you'll only achieve your goals if you behave and live the values. And so one little trick I'll share with you with that is literally to make sure that your values are part of your performance development process so that you can actually measure the how as well as the what, because ultimately the how drives the what. Another little tip that I will share is around, I'll share these two at the same time. I've never done or been part of an employee engagement survey, staff satisfaction survey, whatever you want to call it, where two key things will always come out as probably first and second. If they're not in the top two, they'll certainly be in the top three. And that is growth and development and recognition. Everybody wants growth and development. They want to develop on, and they want to be the best that they can be. So again, it depends on the size of the organization, but even the smallest of organizations of 5 or 10 people can do something that actually helps with the development of their people. And one simple trick that you can do is have what I call an IDP, an individual development plan, for absolutely everybody in the organization. Now, in India, culturally, we only think of individual development plans as a bad thing. You go on them if you're not performing. But if you create a culture where everybody has an individual development plan, which has a two-pronged approach. First prong being all around, how can I be the best that I can be in my current role? And then the second part is, how can I develop myself for my future role? So growth and development is really important. And I swear by individual development plans. I remember when I was head of learning and development of my previous organization, I had 72 trainers working with me in my team. And in 1 year, I had something like, I think it was 62 or 63% of those colleagues being promoted in 1 year, either within my own department or within other departments of the organization, purely down to IDPs, because we were focusing on these every single month and helping and giving our colleagues the opportunity to grow.
Amazing.
And if I just touch on recognition, I can't say that word without smiling, because it's one of the simplest changes that we can do in employee engagement, but it is so much, I wouldn't say ignored, but it certainly is a challenge for many organizations, because what organizations do, they recognize that recognition and appreciation is important to people. They also bring in a fantastic platform like Vantage Circle, of course, to actually to help them actually recognize and appreciate colleagues. But the thing that is actually missing is the culture of recognition and appreciation, where it actually becomes part of the DNA of an organization. And one of the best ways to do this is to link your recognition program into the values of the organization. So people are being appreciated for the behaviors they're displaying and the values. And it's that link. And it's, we live in a society, unfortunately, where, and I think COVID has had a real impact on this, where, the thank yous and the well dones and all this kind of thing is not as prevalent as it used to be when we were in the workplace. Yeah. It happened a lot at the beginning of COVID, and I'm sure you've seen the latest surveys that showed, at the peak of COVID, employee engagement scores went through the roof. And that was because, managers and leaders were ringing up their people saying, are you okay? Thank you for doing this. But now, working remotely has become the norm. That is a big challenge, because that's not happening anymore. All that's fallen by the wayside. But, just a simple thank you, well done. A leader just ringing up their colleague and saying, or their direct report and saying, do you know what, Susmita? I really appreciate what you did there. Thank you so much. What you did meant X, Y, Z. And then end the call there. There's always a hidden agenda. There's like, okay, now I've thanked you, I can talk about business results. Just that simple 3-minute call to say thank you makes all the difference to people. So, just to recap, leadership buy-in is an incredibly powerful initiative for employee engagement, because without it, you don't get it. Vision and values, making sure that people understand how what they do on a daily basis links into the vision and values and the goals of the organization. Growth and development, something as simple as IDPs, which costs nothing, to help your people see how they can grow in their current role and their future roles. And recognition, of course, cultivating that culture of recognition so it becomes part of the DNA of the organization is critical to actually ensure that any employee engagement initiatives are successful.
And I'm so proud to say here that at Vantage Circle, we are all, very much appreciating each other's in our platform, and our managers, our CEO, CTO, everyone is, encouraging us to appreciate each other. Even now, the pandemic is almost over and we are in the office. Some of us are working from home, but everyone is getting equally appreciated, and it has become a part of our culture, and it's a great one.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I've interacted with many of the guys at Vantage Circle, and you can just feel that in your interactions with them. And of course, the great thing as well, and the most important thing, is that with recognition, is it needs to start at the top. It needs to start at the top of the organization and work its way down, because when you get to senior leadership, one of the greatest challenges is that recognition isn't important for them. It's not important. The CEO doesn't feel that it's important that they are recognized. Same with C-suite, or even in smaller organizations, business owners. So because they don't feel that it's important to them, they do very little recognition. And of course, I know, knowing you guys at Vantage Circle, I know that doesn't happen there. You get as much appreciation from the top down as it does bottom up, which is brilliant.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Philippa, for such a detailed answer to my question. And moving forward, let's talk about leadership trust, the secret sauce behind employee engagement, the topic today.
It is indeed.
So without that, leadership is doomed. So what tips do you have on, how we can ensure that trust in leadership is nurtured and developed within our organizations?
Well, it comes totally down, Susmita, to the way that we behave as leaders. And I have some, these are my personal tips, if you like, on how we can actually develop more trust in the workplace. And the first thing really is about demonstrating competence in our roles. That doesn't necessarily mean to say that, if you're a leader of a large organization, you need to know the ins and outs of every role that falls under your remit. It's about having the knowledge. It doesn't mean to necessarily that you actually know how to do that. So, the fact, that by demonstrating competence, I mean that, we demonstrate that we have the expertise that is needed for the job role and the position that we're holding. Unfortunately, I think so many people are promoted, inappropriately promoted, shall we say. People are promoted into leadership roles because they were good at doing the job that they were doing previously. And leadership is a whole career in itself. We have to demonstrate that we're competent as a leader, and that we can achieve the results, that we can actually solve problems, that we're decision makers, that we can actually demonstrate competence that really inspires others to have the trust and the confidence in us. I'm sure you can think of, and I know I can think of many leaders that come to mind who, I haven't had confidence in, or I haven't had trust in them. And a lot of the time is because I haven't believed in their competence as a leader. Yeah. And that is a really great place to start. I also feel that as leaders, we need to be believable. We have to act with integrity. We have to be honest, no matter how difficult the situation may be. And we have to do this in a consistent way that is in line with the values of the organization. We have to treat people fairly. We have to walk the talk and, really build trust in those relationships. We have to behave in an ethical manner. I think one of the things, and I'm going to be very honest and candid with you here, but one of the things that I'm hearing a lot of, because I work with so many business owners and business leaders, is that people are hiring people into roles just because they're women, because they want to hit the diversity numbers. Now, even though I'm a woman, I have a real challenge about that, because I feel the right person should get the job. Doesn't matter
Very
what
true.
their gender is. Male, female, it doesn't matter. The right people should get the job. And I think, I'm hearing a lot out with my recruitment contacts that, I've been asked a number of times, for example, do you know somebody who could fill this job? And I say yes, and they say, is it a woman? And I'm like, no. It's like, sorry, we're only interested in hiring women. And I know it's an important issue and it's very contentious, but unless we treat people fairly and act with integrity and behave in an ethical manner, we're never going to earn the trust of our people. So I think it's a very important thing that we do. We also, and I think I alluded to this earlier, that we also need to care about other people, genuinely care, and be connected, which means really focusing on our people and having great communication skills and recognizing the contribution of these people. Caring about others really builds trust, because, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I remember, I'm going back to a previous organization and a CEO that we had at this company. He was absolutely amazing. Do you know, every week he used to, the company that I worked for was on multiple level floors and in multiple different buildings as well, in the same city. But every week he would make a point to actually walk the floors and say hello to everybody who was there. Now, not everybody was in at that time. Perhaps when he walked it, he varied his time. So sometimes he did it at 10 in the morning, sometimes he did it at 5 o'clock at night. But, just walking the floor and saying hi to people and stopping and asking some people, how are you today? How are things going? It showed such care and showed such connection that it was really an incredible thing to see. And I got a very big learn from that. And when I became a leader, it was something that I always made sure I did. I think I got a few more points that I would like to share as well. So I think being dependable is really important. I think, following through on your commitments builds trust, doing it in a timely manner. Doing it when you say you would do, holding yourself accountable, holding others accountable. At the end of the day, not doing what you say you will do will erode trust completely. And you hear this a lot of times, especially from more junior members of the team, that their leader has said that they will do something, but they haven't done it. So being dependable and reliable is very important. But also making sure that you're part of the team. You need to be loyal to the team that you work with, defend the team if needed. Sometimes you have to provide a buffer if things are not going the right way or in a timely manner. Equally when things are going well, we need to praise them, to not just them, but to more senior leadership. So, making sure that other people know what a great job the team is doing or what individuals doing. And, this makes your team look great. It makes you look great. And it makes sure that your people understand that you are a team player and being part of the team. And I guess my final tip that I would share today, and I could talk for hours on this subject, is about don't micromanage.
Mm.
You know, micromanage, I think, is the death of trust. You know, our people need to feel that they have a purpose, that they have a goal, that they have a cause, and they want to feel part of that. You know, it's not about, people don't want to, it's not enough for people to feel that, you know, that they're just doing what they're told because their boss, and I'm using inverted commas here with my fingers in the air, are telling them to. You know, they need to understand the why, the how, the what, and the when. You know, sometimes we may, you know, as long as we set our people up for success, any failure that they make, you know, we need to learn from our mistakes. And as you know, we often learn better from our mistakes than we do if we do it right the first time, because then we know not what to do. And we should encourage our people, you know, to fly and to take a few risks and to step out on their own. Micromanaging is really, it will not build trust in any organization at all. So I guess I could go on, but just to summarize, it would be about, you know, making sure that we are demonstrating competency, making sure that we are believable and acting with integrity, caring about others and genuinely caring, not say we care when we don't, being dependable, showing that we're as much part of the team as our people are, and not micromanaging them. If you have an open enough relationship with them, you know, they'll come to you if they don't know how to do it. So it really does work.
I'm sure that there are other points as well, Philippa. And to handle all of the skills and qualities, another thing that leaders have to do is continuous learning.
Yes.
So is there any leadership lesson that you have learned lately that you want to share with our listeners today?
You know, and continuous learning is so important, and particularly in the area of employee engagement as well, because, you know, when people feel, you know, as if they're learning, they're going to be more engaged with the organisation. But one thing that I've really learned, and this has come to the fore recently, is how important psychological safety is in the workplace. I think, you know, colleagues should never feel that they will ever be embarrassed, you know, punished or rejected for speaking up. And our role as leaders really is the job to create that right environment so that our colleagues can thrive. And they're only going to get that if they feel psychologically safe. You know, when people feel psychologically safe as well, it's easier for them to engage with the organisation.
That's a very important point.
Whether it be a team meeting, whether it's solving problems, maybe it's even, you know, collaborating on some projects or something. You know, engaging is very important, but people won't engage. And in this world of COVID, where the majority of people are still working remotely, even if it be in a hybrid way, it's important that, you know, that we create that environment. And it's harder to create in a remote world than it is actually when we're all in the office working together, because that connection, that people connection isn't there. We're not having those water cooler conversations or coffee conversations that we used to have. So yeah, one thing that I've been reading about a lot on recently is about psychological safety, and that is helping me see things in a different light.
Right. That you know, safety, that eagerness to have a difficult conversation with one of the teammates, so that anyone can come up to you and have, you know, discuss their problems, their issues, or whatever they want to with the manager. So that is very
absolutely
important. Right.
Absolutely. And that's why leadership trust is so important, because if they don't trust you, if you haven't created that environment as a leader, then it's never going to happen.
Okay, so now, Philippa, if there was something you could change in the world of work or leadership, what would be that?
Oh, I can only have one, Suspita. That's not fair.
Please let us know.
Okay, I would say genuinely care about your people and show it. Genuinely care about them. You know, I talked about earlier, it's about heart count. not headcount. When I hear HR departments talk about headcounts or ops or sales teams talk about headcount, I cringe inside. It's about genuinely, connecting with people and caring about people and showing it. It's all right for a leader to say, of course I care about my people. Yeah, but what are you doing about it? How do they know you care? That is the crux of the matter. And if I could change anything in the world of leadership today, that's what
Brilliant.
I would change.
Lovely answer, Philippa. Lovely answer. So, so is there anything that you have read, watched or listened to lately that you think our listeners might enjoy as well?
Ooh.
Any book, any podcast, maybe?
Yeah. There's a couple, actually. I've recently, Susmita, got into listening to podcasts. I find it really good, when I'm making myself a breakfast in the morning or getting ready. It's so good to put on a podcast and learn about that. And one that I've been listening to recently is one by Poppy Harlow, and it's called Boss Files. And what she does, I think she's an ex-CNN reporter, and she conducts really interesting interviews with global CEOs, global innovators, entrepreneurs, and kind of uncovers their secrets that led them to their success. So that's a really good podcast that I would recommend to our leaders. A book I've just reread, I read it many years ago, but I've just reread it, is Good to Great by Jim Collins. I think this was published over 20 years ago. It's got so many brilliant ideas that you can apply to any organization, no matter how big or small it may be. And it's still as relevant today as it was all those years ago when it was published. So that's a great book recommendation. And I guess finally, I'm not a particular movie buff, but I love looking to movies for inspiration. I'm going to kind of give away a little bit of some of my thought process here, but I always look to movies for inspiration, and you can find so many. And one that comes to mind is always Star Wars movies. There is some great leadership learnings in the Star Wars movies, but as there are in many other movies, you can name many of them, but I always remember one of my favorite quotes came from Star Wars. I think it was The Empire Strikes Back, where Yoda, the little green man, says to Luke Skywalker, when Luke Skywalker's trying to get his spaceship out of this kind of marshy swamp thing. Luke Skywalker says, "I'll try to do this." And Yoda turns around and says, "Do or do not. There is no try." And I think that's one of the greatest quotes of all time.
Okay, Philippa, great. So lastly, if our listeners wanted to connect to you, what would be the best way to do that?
The best way is to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Susmita. It's a quickest and easiest way to get me, and I'll know you'll be putting the link to that into the podcast. So I would just encourage people to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Philippa, for sharing your leadership knowledge today. Our listeners would surely learn a lot from this episode, and I learned a lot from this episode, and I really enjoyed having this conversation with you today. Thank you so much once again for joining me in the Vantage HR Influencers podcast. Hope to meet you soon again.
Thank you so much. An absolute pleasure, and have a fabulous day.
Thanks for listening to the Vantage HR Influencers podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage HR Influencers podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and our YouTube channel for new episodes.